Are solar panels to your home worth it or just the hype? Let's talk about cost, savings, hidden risks, and why 2025 may be your last big chance. Hello, and welcome to the Wealth Minded MD podcast with your money best friends. I'm Dr. Brittany Helford.
And I'm Dr. Alicia Taylor.
And of course, we're here to help you build wealth and make good money decisions so you can create the life you desire with more control over your time. Alicia, can we talk about one of the most important money moves we've made as doctors? And I don't know about you, but for me, when I think about this, it's actually insurance. Yes, I know it's not sexy, but it is absolutely essential, especially disability insurance.
Facts. I got mine right after med school, before residency even started. And let me tell you, Prati Botto at PKA Insurance Group made the whole process so smooth. He actually cared, broke down everything, explained the fine print, and got me the best policy for the best price.
And what I love is that he treats everyone like that, residents, attendings, even docs on visas. He literally got you. He's super responsive, super knowledgeable. And if there's a better deal out there, he will tell you.
Oh, and if you're healthy, you could get approved for up to 10 million in life insurance. So not just disability insurance in only 5 minutes. No labs, no hassle.
So if you're serious about protecting your income and your family, call 1-800-258-1018.
Or email pradeep at pkainsurance.com. All right, Brittany, what's going on over there for you?
Oh my gosh, Leisha. It's all good. It's all good. It's like blessings on blessings on blessings. And I'm so grateful. And with new opportunities, it also puts a mirror to me of how much can I do and what brings me the most joy, the most value to my life and my family's life. How can I delegate some tasks to make room for me to receive all of these blessings? Or as many doors are opening, what other doors can be closed or maybe shut for a moment's time as a pause to create space. So I'm extremely grateful for this season in our lives. And I'm also like a little overwhelmed.
Well, I love this for you. This is what we call champagne problems. When you got too many great things happening and you're like, which great thing do I continue to do and be great at? And which great thing do I maybe scale back? It's really interesting because I am reading this book right now called The Five Types of Wealth. And it is so great. I haven't even finished it yet. And it's already like changing my life and my perspective on things.
Mm.
But one of the five types of wealth is time wealth. And it talks about, there's like these different questions that you ask yourself and you come up with a time wealth score. And you do that for each of the five types of wealth. But I remember some of the questions for the time wealth section being about, have you clearly pinpointed your top priorities, both professionally and personally? Have you clearly, defined time through which you can dedicate to those priorities? Do you ever feel like you are too busy to do the things that are most important to you? And you kind of rate yourself on those things. And it really helps, at least it has helped me, put into perspective, how do I spend my time on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis? And how can I get better at that? As I've continued to read that section, it's really been about, okay, what tasks can I delegate? Versus what tasks do I need to do myself? What tasks are important? What tasks are urgent? And how can I better define what those tasks may be? And then also, which tasks and duties do I do that drain my energy versus which tasks and duties are neutral to my energy versus which tasks and duties bring me energy? I agree with you, kind of at a crossroads of really trying to figure out, okay, how can I clearly define what those things are? Because there are things that I think would be beneficial to my career, but maybe they drain my energy, or maybe they take a lot of time versus other things that I enjoy doing, but I don't feel like I have time to do. And so it's all about, okay, how can I prioritize? Maybe I should spend some time this weekend or over the next couple of weeks and really try to figure it out. What are the big goals that I have for myself? And what are the smaller things that I need to accomplish in order to reach those big goals? Because maybe that might help me figure out which pathway to go down. And I'm saying this very long tangent because I think that maybe it will help you, since you just are blessed in all of these different ways of figuring out which blessing you want to continue to pursue.
Thank you, Leisha. I'm going to have to get that book because I think you're so right. Sometimes we are pursuing money and it's at the exchange of what are we sacrificing in return? Or we might be pursuing health, but what are we sacrificing in return? And our time is a limited resource. It's one thing that we cannot get back. So, as I am appraising the opportunities and trying to also be prayerful about listening to where God is leading me, because, when I say that this is a blessing, like, I don't think it's just like, oh, it's just serendipitous or fortuitous that this door opened, like, I think that it's falling in place in a way that I had never planned before. And so it's not anything that I'm doing is by divine intent. And so attuning my ear. And I think that that could really help me to do some of the activities that you talked about. What are the priorities? What are the short term and long term goals? And what are the pathways to get there? Doing both and asking God to kind of lead me in that decision making. And then one of the things that I think you also say, and my husband says often, is like a no doesn't mean like a not ever. It might mean like just a not right now. Or maybe you just have to conceptualize, okay, how can I still do this thing that I want to do, but maybe it takes a different form? Speaking specifically, one of the things that I wanted to do was to create this kind of longitudinal mentorship program that was tiered from pre med to medical school. It's like I wanted them to lead most of it, but of course, I was going to be the attending that was overseeing and helping to mentor. And I just realized I don't have capacity to start that program. And I had already kind of arranged some meetings with the students and all this. And so I felt really horrible, but I sent them an email to say, this opportunity has opened doors. This is a prayer answered. I still want to be involved in your growth and development as a physician. And here's how I can do so and do it in a way that honors my current time. So maybe it's not we jumping on a Zoom call with a structured curriculum. Maybe it's on that phone call as I'm driving or as I'm walking to work, but I still have value that I can afford because they're a first year, second year, third year, whatever, medical student. So just trying to appraise, okay, how can I still make it work and honor some of the commitments that I've previously made, but maybe it just takes a different form.
I like that. And I think it brought up something in me as well when you were talking about how can I have the level of impact that I want to have on the groups of people that matter to me in a way that still honors my energy and maintains my energy and leaves room for the other things in my life that are really important. It's like, all right, I want to do this program or I want to have this level of impact on these group of people. And initially, I thought I was going to do it in this way. But I'm realizing now that doing it in this way is going to require more energy of me than I have to give at this moment. So, what is another way that I can have a similar impact or at least some impact on people in a way that feels good to me, in a way that still allows me to show up as my best self in the other areas of my life where I need to be my best self? Like you said, maybe it looks different initially. One of the things that I was reading about in the book, and that I think actually you do a good job of, and I need to probably take heed, is delegating more tasks. A lot of the times I feel like, well, I want to do this thing, that thing, that thing, and that thing. And I'm feeling like I need to do it all myself. And it's draining my energy, and my capacity is being waned faster than I would like. But I think that maybe I could still have a similar impact and accomplish more things if I delegated tasks. And sometimes that means hiring help. Sometimes that means accepting the help that's offered and realizing that even if somebody else wouldn't do it exactly how I would, that the
Mhm.
fact that it is done is still helpful. And
Mhm.
so, it's one of those things about, okay, I need to create room in my life, but I want to maintain the impact I currently have. So maybe I need to do a better job at delegating. Maybe I need to hire an assistant. Maybe I need to incorporate more AI. Maybe I need to, whatever the solution might be, but incorporate some other things to make it just a little bit more feasible. I mention that because I think that maybe you could benefit as well. I don't know. This is what's coming to mind right now.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I think one of the things, we do is we do financial check-ins, but I need to do a time check-in to just appraise, like you said. What are the priorities? What are the things that are consuming my time? How is my energy as I'm doing these tasks? What can I delegate without sacrificing the impact and also the integrity of the task at hand? And so, girls, sometimes my house is a mess and that's okay. Oftentimes I pay people to help me to cook meals and things of that nature. The acceptance piece is really, really critical. I think accepting the help that you get and not judging it because we might say, okay, this is wrong and that is wrong. But honestly, done is better than perfect. If my mom is watching the kids and she wants to get hot dogs, or my husband is taking care of the kids and they have pizza for 2 meals in a row, it's like, okay, they fed, they're not going to die. So let's just keep it moving. So thank you for that, Leisha. the appraisal of resources, time, energy, money is something that fits into what we're going to talk about in our financial focus as well. And how do we make decisions based on potential opportunities and also maybe a time stamp? Because not all opportunities are going to be available forever. Sometimes there might be a limited window for us to grasp that opportunity.
As physicians, one of the most important things that we can do is make sure that we secure our income because a lot of our financial plans are contingent on our high doctor income. One of the things that you will need to do is make sure that you get long term disability insurance.
Now, Pradeep and his team at PKA Insurance Group have a reputation for putting people over profits and always doing what's best. Do not hesitate to email PKA Insurance and his team today.
They will help you get the insurance you need with the service you deserve.
And so today, what we want to introduce to you is the calculations of adding solar panels to your home. And Alicia, this is something that I brought to my husband recently. I was like, "Do you have any questions?" He's like, "Not right now," because of the cost. And so I think we have to definitely dive into the details of this, especially as things are changing and this window of opportunity will still be open, but it may not be as sweet as it currently is.
Yeah, well, you know what? As somebody who is not a homeowner, i.e., me, to someone like you who is a homeowner, I am excited for you to talk about this because this is actually a question that I've heard from several homeowners. They've asked some variation of should I add solar panels to my home? And so, although this is a question that I am familiar with, our audience may be like, solar panels, what? Adding it to your home? What else, Brittany, trying to do over there? So, why don't you ensure that we're all on the same, level playing field? Can you break down, Brittany, for us? You don't have to get into the physics, but break down for us what are solar panels? How do they work? And why in the heck are you even talking about this? Like, why is this of interest to you?
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for relieving me of the burden of getting into the physics because after physics 2 in college, I have not really thought about physics very much. But one of the reasons why I'm thinking about solar panels, so solar panels essentially are those square rectangular panels that you sometimes will see on the highways, and there may be 10 or so with this long pole. You might not have that same setup on your roof, but essentially it is a panel that will help to convert solar energy from the sun into electric energy that can power your home, your mini splits. So, if you have heating and cooling, that is electric, your devices, all of the above. And why am I considering this? One is because I am always thinking about the environmental footprint that I am leaving behind because my kids will be living in this earth. And we know that global warming is a thing. We watch all of these different shows about animals and how the environment impacts them and how life is full circle. So, right. So, how does that impact us? So I'm always thinking about that. You all know I drive a really old car, which may not be the best for the environment, but I don't drive it that frequently. I'm walking. So this is just kind of in alignment with my values of how can I be more environmentally friendly and protect what, has been given to us. Also, you all know that I am extremely frugal. So, how can I lower this energy bill? Because in December, let me tell you, I was shocked. It was about $600 for our electricity bill. Let's just say I don't want to have that high of a bill again if I can prevent it. So, those were the two reasons that I was considering solar panels. And we talked about this on our bill episode when we talked about like the House and the Senate bill. Now we know that one big bill, beautiful bill is now in legislation, and there was a component about solar energy in that bill as well. So, because the solar energy tax credits will be no longer after this year, I am thinking, is this an opportunity that I need to take a hold of right now?
Let me summarize this. It's like, okay, Brittany cares about the environment. Okay, kudos to Brittany. But also, Brittany's trying to lower her electric bill. Did I summarize this? And the cost of adding these solar panels is cheaper, it seems like, if you do it this year because of various tax credits. And so it's like, all right, Leisha, I'm thinking about adding these little metal things to my roof so that it can lower my electric bill. You're nodding your head. I am floored that your electric bill is $600 because in my head I said 600 American dollars. That seems crazy to me. So clearly we have different bills. I had a $600 monthly electric bill. I too would be thinking, how can I lower this thing? So I get that sentiment. Can you explain something? Again, you don't have to go into the physics. I just got a general question. It takes solar energy, converts it to a type of energy that you can use that you currently pay for electricity. So it can help to power your home, your air conditioning unit, that sort of thing, anything that you plug into the wall. Question: how does this work in the wintertime? Maybe this is a dumb question, but can you answer it for me? Because you live in Boston. I could understand you lived in Florida, but you live in Boston, girl. It is, let's just say, not as sunny all months throughout the year. So, how does this work in the winter months?
Yes, Leisha, you're right. And so that's one of the things that we want to discuss when you're considering your solar panels because it is solar. So it depends on the sun. It depends also on the season. So if you have seasonality to the area in which you live and you have this long winter or cloudy days, then it's not going to be as beneficial to you as it would be in someone who's like in Arizona, for example. So that is the one thing that I am considering. So in the winter, it may not be as beneficial, but there's always sun, you know? And so you want to ensure that the direction of the solar panels will be most optimized, and that's a south facing direction. And that's where you can get more sun. You also want to think about okay, are there tall trees around my home that might provide more shade? And if so, then I might not be able to benefit as much from this investment as some of the other places. And so I know that it still works because there's still sun, but of course, there's not as much sun. So it may not offset our energy cost as much as it will in the summertime, but you'll still get some benefit.
Okay, so what I'm hearing you say is, Leisha, it's not like all of your energy is going to come from these panels. Is that adding these panels helps to decrease the amount of energy that you need otherwise. So, in other words, it'll help to decrease your electric bill, but not completely remove your need to pay for electricity. And because it's powered from energy on the sun during the days or the months or the seasons of the year where there's more sun, then you'll get more benefit out of these panels. And during the days, seasons where there's less sun, maybe you'll get less benefit out of these panels. But it seems like from a day to day basis, you'll still get some benefit and it will still lower your electric bill to some degree.
To some degree. Yes, yes, yes. And so I just want to take a step back with this window of opportunity. So the One Big Beautiful Bill Act passed July 4th. And essentially what that did was it eliminates solar energy credits that were previously offered. So electric vehicle credits, they end in September 30th, 2025, and the solar renewable energy credit for solar panels ends December 31st, 2025. For the solar energy credit, it is about 30% of the total cost that you are paying, you will get back as a credit on your taxes. So it's not a small amount. And, you know, as we kind of start to talk through some of the decision making when I'm thinking about this, I met with a salesman and he told me that it would be about $15,000 to put 6 panels on our roof, and that would decrease our energy bill about 60%. So again, like you said, we would still get an energy bill, but it would be reduced by 60%. But that total cost of 15,000, 30% of that I would get as a credit back on my taxes. So it will essentially make this $15,000 investment more like a $10,000 investment all in after you consider the credits. And then not only are there federal credits, but then there are also some state and local credits that you could consider. So I think it could be a good option if this is something that you've been considering. If you are like, okay, I like the environment. And so my heart tells me that I should make this decision, even if I'm not going to save as much, because it could be in the winter that I only save 40% on our electric cost, but it's still a cost savings. So I think we should definitely go through some of the finances when considering this.
Okay. All right. So, just a few nuanced questions. Is there an income limit to who can actually qualify for this solar credit? And do you have to itemize your taxes in order to get the credit?
So there is not an income limit because I asked that question. I looked in and I asked our accountant, I pay you. I need you to make sure you can clarify this. I don't know if it's a itemization thing. I don't think that it is an itemization thing. I think even if you take the standard deduction, you would get a credit because it is a tax credit. It's not a deduction.
Okay, so it's above the
Yeah.
line and that sort of thing. Okay, all right, that's good. And no income limit. So I know you and your husband aren't exactly making small pennies. And so for those out there who are listening to this episode and are thinking, does this apply to me as a physician or me, whatever profession you are? It seems like it does.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I think all physicians can take advantage of this if they own their home. When I'm meeting with a salesperson, he's like, okay, it'll be about $15,000 and you'll get this much in credit and you'll get this much here. One of the things I'm thinking about, okay, I have to put all this money up front. What is my break even point? And I've been using this as a metric for many decisions, especially when there's an upfront cost to the action that I'm taking. So I think that this is one of the things that I would encourage you if you're thinking about solar panels, when will you break even on this investment? And that you want to calculate as best as you can all of the costs, all of the initial cost into the investment, and then the savings. Of course, once they put the solar panels in, you will know how much it really offsets your electrical bill in the summer months and in the winter months. So you may not be able to do a full evaluation of this calculus, but you can at least look at your bill and say, okay, if it decreases it by 50% or 40%, what would be my break even point at those various tiers to idolize? Okay, is this something that is worthwhile? Also, to internalize, how does this feel? Like if I break even at 6 years from this investment, does that feel good to me knowing that from every point forward it's going to be cash in my pocket? So that's kind of where I am thinking also is like, what is my break even point? How long will it take for me to reap my money back from the initial cost of this investment? And typically it's about 6 to 12 years depending on, your sunlight, electricity costs. So for me, that doesn't sound too bad if I'm staying in this home, right? Because it's like, okay, well, I'm not going to reap all the benefits of that break even point if I sell this home or if I move before I break even. So that's one of the things that I've been thinking about with this type of investment.
I'm glad you brought that up because I was thinking about that as well. If your break even point is 10 years or more down the line, what are the odds that someone's going to be in their home that long in order to actually see all the fruits of their labor, if you will? I know that you and your husband just recently bought your home. I mean, just as relative, but I think within the past year or two, right? Do you all see yourself in that home for long term? And if not, Brittany, I wonder if adding solar panels to a home increases the value of the home. Because maybe if you're not in the home for, the full 10 years or so to get to that break even point, if you sell the home, is the home now worth more because it has those panels? And what could you reap your benefit that way? So do you know the answer to that?
Yeah, I haven't done the exact calculus for us depending on our home cost, but typically solar panels will increase the home's property value by about 4% on average, I think. Which is not small change, It's not small change, especially as you're going to start to get some of the benefits. If you surpass your break even point, then that's all profit back to you. But it's something to consider in your calculus. So let's just take 4% of your home's property value right now and then add that in as if you sell your home or were to move, then that would be an immediate return that you would get back.
Yeah, because I'm thinking obviously it depends on how much you pay for your home, but based on you living in Boston, I'm pretty sure that just adding that 4% just right there, that's going to make up the difference. And so you're laughing because you're like, yeah, it will. Obviously, this depends on how much you spent on your home. Another thing is not only the break even point, Brittany, but the opportunity cost of what else could you have done with that money had you not done it that way? Because that's the break even point. But you may not have necessarily made money on that investment unless you decide to sell your home, as you mentioned. And so also thinking about, where am I in my financial life? Am I at the point where this is an investment that makes sense for me to make at this time? Right. Because there's the opportunity cost, right? If you, let's just use your numbers, are spending $15,000 on adding these panels, what else could you have done with that 15,000? Could you have invested it and earned 8 to 10% on your money in an index fund? Could you have bought a rental property? We talked about short-term rental properties and how, depending on how you do it and how much time you spend in it, you might be able to deduct a large portion of that rental property cost on your taxes. We just talked about paying down your student loans. Could you have put that money towards your student loans? Could you have put that money in savings, built up your emergency fund? So it's not only, in my opinion, about the break even point, but obviously also you got to add in the opportunity cost. Now, thankfully, it seems that, I'm not trying to pocket watch, but when I do pocket watch, it seems like, you and your husband doing quite well that, you don't necessarily have to worry about the opportunity cost because you're able to make these other kinds of investments. But for those listening, maybe that is something to consider.
Oh, yes. It definitely is something to consider. I mean, even though we have the money in the bank, we could pay it in cash, we may not want to pay it in cash. So I think this is a great segue to understand what some of the financing options are, and then also to consider the pros and cons of the financing options. So we know that cash is one option, right? So you pay out of pocket cash, pay it off in full. And one of the big benefits of doing that is you don't have to think about paying anybody a bill and reap all of the tax savings. So if you pay it in cash, you reap all of the tax savings for the tax credit and any kind of state and local credits that might be applied. And there's no interest accruing. So you pay what you pay, and then that's up front, and you know what your break even point is and what the kind of opportunity cost is. But as you mentioned, Leisha, it is a higher upfront cost. And so if your budget does not allow you to pay this off upfront, if you don't have that in an emergency savings, or you just choose not to spend that amount of money on this investment, then it's not going to work for you. Like that decision, although it might have some benefits, is not going to be the best choice for you. So if you're like, okay, I have the money in a bank, but I don't want to spend it, or I don't have it in the money bank, but this is still something that I want to do, the next is a financing option. And this is something that I am still considering. I haven't made the decision yet on whether or not we're going to get solar panels, and I can explain some of the nuances to where we live. So I got to get my cosigner to give me the green light to move forward. Thinking about that, I am considering a financing option. A financing option basically allows for you to have this lower upfront cost, right? But you are still eligible for all of the credits, which is fantastic. And so you can still reap all the tax benefits, but you have the lower upfront cost. Now, it's another bill that you have to pay. And because it's debt, you will have to pay interest. So the amount that you will pay over time is going to be greater than what you would pay in cash. Another option is a lease, or what they call PPA. I have to remember what that stands for. But there's no upfront cost. And basically, you just make a monthly payment. You lease the equipment, but you don't own it. With that, because you technically don't own the equipment, there's no federal credit and likely no state credits as well. When you lease it, is going to be a monthly payment that you'll pay. They amortize this out over 25 years. So 25 years you'll be making this payment. And then after 25 years, if you want to purchase it, then you can purchase it. And some companies might have different kind of lease options. After 5 years, then you can purchase it. But with this, it also complicates the sell factor, right? Because you have this lease. So if you want to sell your home, then you either have to purchase the equipment and pay that money out and kind of put that into maybe the asking price of the property, or the new owner has to assume your lease. And it just makes things way too complicated. So my advice would be to consider paying cash or to do the financing, but understanding what the pros and cons are for both of those.
Yeah, yeah. As you mentioned, if you're going to do the financing, obviously you got to look at the interest rates and again, the opportunity cost, right? What else could you be doing with your cash? Maybe you want to save your cash for some other reasons and just finance it over time. I don't know, Brittany, if you've looked into the different interest rates, but for some people, it's like, okay, if I can earn 4% on my cash by having it sitting in a high yield savings account, but the interest rate, if I do a financing is like 2 or 3%, then maybe it makes sense to finance, maybe I can leverage that difference. And so definitely something to keep in mind. It's helpful to know that there are other options like leasing, but as you mentioned, then you don't get the tax credit and then, you may have to pay for it outright. So it seems like maybe that may not be the best course of action. One of the things that I'm curious about, Brittany, is how do you know you can trust the estimate that the solar panel gave you in terms of the estimate for the cost and the estimate of how much they think it's going to save you in your electric bill? Because it seems like that's a big factor, right? What's my break even point? How much am I going to get back from this? And is it binding? Can you like sue them if they say you're going to save 60% and you only end up saving 20%? Like, how do you know they're not just telling you what you want to hear in order to get you to buy?
You're right. Salesmen are salesmen, right? They work on commission. So I think, Leisha, being a little bit dubious, that is a healthy level of skepticism. One of the things is you want to do your research. Anytime you're investing in anything, you want to do your research. And then you also want to get more than one estimate. So, with my initial conversation, essentially, I gave him my address. He was able to take some type of Google images of what my roof looks like and estimate the number of panels that he would put onto the roof, the size of the panels, think about like the inverters and all of these other factors. And then from there, he could estimate, okay, with that number of panels on your roof in Massachusetts, this is what I estimate to be the cost reduction for your energy bill. He also looked at my energy bill to consider how much kilowatt energy I'm using per month and using that information to create an estimate. But again, this is an estimate. This is a virtual consultation. So after that, if we agree to sign on, what we would do is pay, I think, $1,000 deposit to have an actual person come and evaluate the roof to do measurements and really appraise the location and if the roof is going to be suitable for putting in these solar panels. At that time, you're going to get the real cost for the solar panels. Now, you still may not fully understand what this energy savings will be, but I think that's one of the benefits of really creating a community and engaging your community. So, we have a neighbor down the road who has solar panels, and I had a conversation with them. Now, they didn't have all of the data to share with me, but one of the things that they did share is that they got their solar panels and then got electric vehicle. So they purchased their electric vehicle after they had gotten their solar panels, and their electricity bill is about the same. Now, they have two electrical vehicles. So if they're charging up both their electrical vehicles and their energy costs are still the same, then that at least conveys to me that it's reducing their energy bill by some degree. I don't know by how much because I don't know how much kilowatt it takes to charge up two vehicles twice, a week or however frequently they're doing it. But at least it tells me that even in Massachusetts, with my neighbor who has a home right down the road and has kind of this tall tree that has a bit of shade, it is reducing their energy costs and they have added additional cost to their energy usage because they have two electric vehicles. So, I think if there's anyone in the community, any resources that you can find and engage to understand how this has impacted them, then that will give you a glimpse into what it would look like for you.
Oh, you know what? That brought up a good point. Is like thinking about how much energy do you currently use and do you expect your energy usage to go up? In the case of your neighbors, it seems like they're like, yeah, we added the solar panels, maybe for the same reasons you did, right? We get this tax credit, it's going to lower our electric bill, and we're doing great things in the environment. But then they also purchase two electric vehicles. And so then it takes electricity to charge those vehicles. And so their energy usage increased. And so that is interesting to hear from me because I'm like, oh, wow, I didn't even think about that. For most of my friends who have electric vehicles, I hear about the money that they're not spending on gas, but I don't necessarily hear about how their electric bill increased. And so it's very interesting, to keep that in mind. Brittany, I wanted to ask you, one of the things that I've heard for folks that have solar panels is their cost seems to be substantially higher than your estimated cost. And one of those reasons is because those folks oftentimes need a new roof, right? The solar panels have to go on the roof. And so it seems like, correct me if I'm wrong, there's some sort of assessment of how good or stable your roof is. And for some folks, they may need a new one. So I'm wondering if, you've looked into that and what determines whether or not people need a new roof. Again, I'm not a homeowner, but the folks who needed new roofs, they talk about how expensive it is.
Yeah, so I don't know how much it costs to repair a roof, but I have heard that too. So when they come out to do the on-site evaluation, they will look at the quality of your roof. They will look at the materials to ensure that the solar panels that they're offering you will be adherent and in agreement with your current structure of roof, or if there's any leaks or anything that if they have to replace the roof, then they will do that as well. I think they have partnerships with other roofing companies, and so they can build that into the cost. If they build that into the cost, if in fact you do need a roof, that also will be part of the cost that will be factored into your renewable energy credit. So if you need a roof, then this might even be a better investment because therefore the government is going to subsidize 30% of the cost of your new roof. In this whole thing, right? And so that's one of the things to consider is the timing right? Like maybe you should engage them, get a new roof, and then get these solar panels installed and get a subsidized roof replacement.
Does home ownership insurance cover the cost of a new roof? Again, this is probably a basic question for most people, but I always assumed that the roof would be covered by folks' insurance, but maybe that is an inaccurate statement.
I think it depends on what caused the damage to the roof. If it's like a
Mm.
tree fell on your roof or something like that, then you can submit that to your homeowner's insurance claim or something else. I don't know. Somebody's drone or something fell on your roof and now you have to submit a claim. But if it's just because your roof is old and you expect that there's a lifespan of your roof and you need to replace it, then at that point it would be out of pocket expense from my understanding. Now, I haven't replaced any roofs, so I haven't gone through this and haven't read about when do you submit for claims versus not. But again, even though our insurance has deductibles for things, and there are some things that we can submit to the insurance. We don't always submit everything to the insurance. Sometimes we just pay the out of pocket expense because we also understand that anytime you submit a claim, usually they'll adjust your insurance premium based upon that usage. But to your point about like homeowners insurance, or in our case, a homeowners association. I know many people live in townhomes and also condominiums. We have a condo and we have basically it's like a side by side. So we share the same roof. And so our roof technically falls under the homeowners association. And this is why I have to consider this for us specifically because my side only gets the solar panels. And if there's any issue with the installation, then that cost is going to fall on me just because of what I did to the roof. But then if we have to replace the entire roof, then I don't know how we're going to negotiate that cost because it's something that I did to the roof that triggered this event for us to have to replace the roof. For many people that I hear talking about this, they usually don't have any issues with their roofs when the solar panels are applied. But that's just one of the things that's giving me pause is like, okay, do I want to cause any issues or turmoil between the other party and our homeowners association? And then we would have to build that into our homeowners association documents at the sale of the home. If there are any issues that then the new owner would have to basically pay the additional cost for removal of the solar panels, whoever acquires our home afterward. So that's giving me a bit more to consider in this calculus if this is right for our home at this time.
Ooh, that's a good thing you brought up is like, what if you share a roof, right? What if you live in a condo? What if you live in a townhome? Do both of y'all have to commit to it? Can they just put the solar panels on your half? Like, I'm just curious about that. And as you mentioned, another nuance thing you have to keep in mind. Another thing that I wonder, Brittany, is the maintenance on the panels. Like, does it require you to spend $1,000 to clean the panels? Do you have to constantly engage the company who set them up to like perform yearly or monthly maintenance? Like, what happens if the company goes out of business? I'm just kind of curious about some of these other factors.
Yes, those are great questions. And actually, that was something that my mother said to me when I presented this to her, because she's like, they make all these promises of we will give you a warranty for 10 to 25 years or something like that. But what happens if the company goes out of business? And from what I've read online, from the YouTube videos, I've watched many of these solar energy, these solar panel companies have gone bankrupt. It is not uncommon. I would say probably it's more common than uncommon. And as we think about the future and now the reduction of solar energy credits and these incentives, probably more of these companies will be going out of business. So, how can you guarantee a warranty when the company no longer exists? And so that's part of the calculus. From what I've heard, is that it really doesn't require much maintenance. I know some people get up on their own roof and they'll like clean the snow off or like rinse them down for all the dust and the debris. But my neighbor who has them, they say that they don't do anything, and that they've worked pretty fine. If they do get dusty, then of course that's going to decrease the amount of sunlight that enters. And so you might see that it's not working as efficiently, but I don't think that there's any necessary maintenance costs. If you wanted to pay somebody to go up there and kind of clean them once a year, then you could incorporate that as well.
Okay, and then what about for, like, folks who live in Florida? Like, I'm from Florida, so this is top of mind of, like, hurricanes, right? And, like, maybe some damage to the panels or a tree falling on the panels, one of the panels breaking or whatever. Is it, like, easy to replace? It seems like you have a warranty, so it seems like if a tree falls on them or whatever, I'm assuming that's covered and they'll replace it for free, but I don't actually know.
Yeah, I think if the company still exists, then I haven't reviewed all the documents to see what is and what isn't. I would imagine that if a tree falls on it, then that may not be covered because that's not something that they did. It's not an electrical issue. But I do know, depending on how they're wired, and I'm not going to get into all of the physics of this, but you can replace a single solar panel if one was damaged, opposed to having to replace the entire system because of how they're wired and the electrical current, how they flow through. You raise a good point, which something that I didn't think about is calling my insurance company to ask them, okay, if I'm adding solar panels to my roof, how does this change the insurance that I have? How does this change kind of the deductible and what is covered if they have any information about that? So that's something that I'll have to put on my to-do list to incorporate into this calculus. I would imagine I would have to pay out of pocket to repair it, but I don't know that for sure because I haven't asked.
Do you know how long it takes to get up and running? Like what the installation process is like? Do you have to like vacate your home while they're installing the panels? How long does it take for them to install? I'm kind of curious about that.
Yeah, that's a great question, especially as we're approaching kind of this second half of we are in the second half of the year and that the credit will end December 31st, 2025. I think it depends on the company. The company that I spoke with said it takes about 45 to 60 days in the process. And because you have to have an inspector come out as well to evaluate to make sure that everything is up to code. You want to give yourself a little bit of room there. So, this is a decision that I need to really conceptualize and evaluate and calculate my own numbers. The company provided numbers, and I'm still shopping other solar panel providers, but I want to evaluate my own break even point, kind of do, okay, say it is not 60% of my energy cost, say it's only 40%, then what is a break even point? How do I appraise this investment as well? Do I want to put anything down for the financing, things of that nature to make the decision? And then have a conversation with the other party in our homeowners association just so that we can start to brainstorm around the various iterations of things that could go wrong and what we would do and how we would modify the condo association documents to incorporate the solar panel addition.
But you don't have to leave your home while they install it?
Oh, girl, no. 60
Oh.
days? 45 to 60
I
days?
don't know. I don't have solar panels, nor do I own a home. I'm just curious. I don't
Oh,
know.
no. They're going to be working on their roof.
Okay. It's electric, and I'm like, look, I don't want nothing to happen to none of y'all. So I'm just,
Yeah, I don't know how long it will take for them to connect everything, but when you have solar panels, as I mentioned, you will still have an electricity bill. So you would still be connected to the grid. So a lot of our energy will still come from the electric company and the grid. Now, the solar energy that I am able to source with my solar panels will also feed into the grid. So you might hear that people receive a check from their energy company, and that's because from their home and their solar panels, they are adding additional sources of energy to the energy grid that supplies their local area. From my understanding, those checks are not big checks. Sometimes it's $8, sometimes it's $100. So don't bank on it, right? But if it comes in the mail, then you're like, okay, I can go and get an extra latte or go out to dinner or something like that. So you don't want to do it just for that benefit. Another thing is if we were connected to a battery, then the battery could be helpful during blackouts. So if there's any type of energy downtime, then our battery would be engaged at that time to supply energy to the home because we wouldn't be fully dependent on the grid. With the battery comes additional costs. So whenever you're talking to these solar panel companies, you want to understand, does the estimate include a battery or not? And do you want to have that battery to be able to supply energy to your home if there's a power outage? For us, I don't think it's that important. So I think we're going to forego the cost of the battery in this case.
is a battery like a backup option? Is it kind of like a generator?
Yeah, it's like a generator. Yep. Yep.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
In addition to being a generator, it could help you to stay off the grid longer. So, what I mean by that is say you have a really, really sunny day, right? And nobody's at home, you're not using any energy. You can charge up the battery. And then when everybody comes home, instead of you connecting to the grid because it's dark outside and you're no longer providing solar energy, that battery can kick in to say, okay, now I'm going to power up the home and use all of this energy that has been stored.
Ooh, so it seems like it's a mechanism, like you said, to store energy. So maybe you would need your electric bill might be even lower, right? Because you're
Mhm.
not using energy from the grid during the day because you have the solar panels, or energy at night because your solar panels have kind of saved up energy that you can use at that time. Interesting.
Correct.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay. So let us know if there's anything additionally that we should know about, because now I'm like, okay, there's so many nuances. My head is spinning. I'm like, this is a lot. I got to call the home insurance company. I got to talk to the homeowners association. I got to see if I need to do roof. I got to, installations and all this. And then I got a break even point that might not be for many years. Maybe I get a little check in the mail. Maybe I won't. There's a tax credit, but it's ending. There's like a lot kind of to keep track of. So help me figure out how you are configuring this. What are the pros of doing this for folks listening? And what are the downsides of doing this for folks listening?
It is a lot, honestly. It's not like a small decision. You just go to the store and you purchase solar panels. I think there is a lot to consider. So the fact that your head is swimming and spinning, that's kind of how I feel right now. And probably why my husband's like, no, I don't have any questions. Like, just come back to me later. I think the first thing to ask yourself is if there were not a renewable energy credit, would I still consider investing in solar panels? The reason why is because you want to make decisions that align with your values. And this decision may not be the best financial investment. I'm just going to say there, you might pay a little bit more than you get in return, especially if you sell your home or, maybe they're off with the amount of energy usage that the electrical panels will help to offset. But if you're like, okay, even though I know in my heart of hearts that I'm doing a good job, I'm doing something good for the environment and I would still move forward, then I would say definitely move forward. You definitely want to still evaluate the financial aspects of it, but you want to understand that it aligns with your core values. And then, if that is the case, then what I would encourage everyone to do is to sit down and have a sales consultation. Well, before that, actually, you've listened to this podcast. So maybe read a couple of blogs, watch a couple of YouTube videos, kind of let it set in and think about it. And then find a company that is a reputable company. The company that I found was through a program called Massachusetts Saves, which is basically they come out to your home to do an appraisal of how to optimize your energy efficiency in your home. And this is a company that was recommended. So maybe you can call your local provider for your electricity to say, who would you recommend for solar panels to see if there's anyone that they would recommend and sit down and have a consultation with them. And that's going to raise some questions and things for you to consider. And after they give you an estimate, that's when you can sit down and do your own analysis of the break even points of how much it might offset your energy cost and things of that nature. And then evaluate, okay, now I have this additional cost and there's not only upfront cost, but also the opportunity cost. How does this align with our financial goals? And if both of those align, then I would say probably you might want to consider it because if you live in the home for 20 years and the solar panel's lifespan is supposed to be around 20, 25 plus years, then you can expect with inflation that energy costs are just going to increase. And to have that certainty that you have this system that's going to be helping you to reduce some of those costs.
For those who maybe care about the environment but are not willing to invest tens of thousands of dollars on their home in order to better the environment, and we're talking pure finances, it seems like you get this tax credit at least until the end of the year. Maybe it might reduce your electrical bill and you might get some additional money from the state or from your, local electrical company. Maybe you get some state rebates and that sort of thing. And so there's different cost savings portions in there that might help you. But if you're not thinking of selling your home, if you're not counting the increased value of the home that the solar panels might provide, do you actually think that it's a good investment? Or is it mainly, I care about the environment, so I wanted to do this anyway, and the rebate kind of helps with that?
I'm not sure that I would say it's a good investment. I think you could put your money in the stock market and get a better return on your investment because there's so many unknowns and the break even point for many people is going to be 6 to 12 years. So I think that there definitely are better investments that you can make. So if you don't have any strong affinity towards helping the environment in this way and using your money in this way to do that, then it's probably not the best investment.
So what I'm hearing you say is, hey, you might save some money, but don't do it just to save money because there are other ways that you could save money or maybe invest money that might give you a bigger return. But if you are somebody who cares about the environment, now is the time to really consider this, especially if you're someone who may need a new roof, just because if you do this now, or at least before the end of the year, there are some additional cost saving measures, mainly that rebate.
Exactly. All right. Well, that's enough. I'll have to let you all know if they're working on my roof. You might hear them banging in the background of the podcast. We hope to make a decision soon. I will have my husband captive for a few plane rides as we're traveling. So I will need to kind of engage a few other companies and get a full assessment to evaluate this decision. But I think we'll probably move forward. There are just a few more moving pieces, and I'll let you all know what we decide. All right. Well, Alicia, what decisions have you been making with your money and spending it on fun?
I went to my nephew's birthday party this past weekend and also my friend's housewarming party. And that was just so much fun. It was always great to see family, play with my nephews and my niece. And so that was great. But when I left that party, I went to my friend's housewarming party. She just recently bought a new home and invited some of her girlfriends over, of which I am one. And we just had the best time. I bought her a housewarming gift, this like fancy charcuterie board with like all these different pieces, what she loved. And I brought over, a bottle of champagne, brought over a bottle of Japanese sake that I'd gotten when I was in Japan. They all loved it. All the girls over there loved it. We played some games and just had a fun time. So that's how I spent my fun money, buying gifts to my friends and bringing some nice drinks over to the housewarming.
That sounds so lovely. If we did not have a housewarming party when we purchased our home, and maybe I'll have it later. I don't know if your friend has kids or not. Kids add a level of complexity to like purchasing a furniture. I want to replace my table, but then one of my kids etched their name in the table and it's like, why should I buy a new table when you're just going to? Oh, this is so funny. The solar energy is calling me now. I'll be calling them back soon. So I'm glad that you were able to spend in a way that fostered joys for other people. Well, I am spending in a way to help me to accomplish a goal. I had set a goal to run this 10-mile race with my dad that we do every year at a faster pace, but my knee has been bothering me. So I've been not running as much as I desire. And I messaged my dad yesterday. I was like, Dad, I've been having a lot of pain in my knee. I've kind of been doing very low mileage for the past 3 weeks. Do you have any insights? And he's like, well, maybe it's your shoes. So I haven't made the purchase yet, but I'm going to today go to a local running company and have them evaluate my current shoes, the way that I run, and purchase some new running shoes so that I can get out and accomplish this goal.
Ooh, I like that. I would recommend Brooks and Hoka's. I feel like Hoka's are like running on clouds. Not that I'm a Hoka sponsor or anything. A lot of people love Brooks. Back in the day, I used to only get Asics, but I've gotten different brands now. I love a good pair of Nikes, but mainly those are like casual shoes or cross training shoes. Not that
Mhm.
you asked my opinion, but since you go into the store, maybe consider some of those for running shoes.
Yeah, when I was in Atlanta, I went to a running store and they put me in a pair of Brooks. Basically, all my shoes since then have been Brooks. So I've just upgraded my shoes every year or so, and they've just been a new pair of Brooks. So I think I'll probably stick with that brand because it served me well. But we'll see. Maybe I'll switch gears and pivot and try Hokas and love them. So I will let you know which brand I buy.
Yeah, yeah, keep us posted. I'm now invested in your running journey.
Well, okay, listeners, we want to say thank you for being here, for giving us your attention. And if you are a homeowner and considering solar panels, then I want you to leave a comment, click that question link in the show notes. Tell me what you're considering. Have you done this before? What's been your experience? Or you can follow us on Instagram and also share. I am curious and I appreciate any insights that you have. And until next time, stay wealthy, people. Bye bye. Hello, and thank you for listening to our podcast. And because of that, we have something for you, our Wealthy Minds Blueprint.
Have you ever thought to yourself, I wish I could be better with money? Do you want to start investing and saving for retirement, but keep delaying because you don't know where to start? Our Wealthy Minds Blueprint is here to help.
This guide will teach you what you didn't learn in your training so you can stop being confused about money and start taking what we call wealthy minded action.
We'll help you become a master of your finances and simplify investing so you can get started today. Take control of your financial future by downloading your free copy of the Wealthy Minds Blueprint now and start building the wealth you deserve.
One of the most important things you can do is ensure you have long-term disability insurance. Long-term disability insurance secures your income if the unexpected happens and you are unable to work due to medical illness, chronic conditions, or an accident.
Unfortunately, all insurance agents aren't created equal. Some of them are so focused on making a sale that they fail to reveal certain necessary information, tell you about discounts available, or clearly explain the process. Prati Botto and his team at PKA Insurance Group are different. They have a reputation of putting people over profits and always doing what's best.
If you need life insurance or disability insurance, reach out to Pradeep and his team today. They will help you get the insurance you need with the service you deserve.
Hello, everybody. It's me, Brooke. I'm recording a little disclaimer for my mommy, Dr. Brittany Halford, and her friend, Dr. Lisa Taylor. Just so you know, they're not financial advisors, tax professionals, lawyers, or financial planners. Everything you hear is for education and entertainment. It's not strict financial advice, So use your best judgment, chat with a tax professional, and all those other people that you need to talk to. Thanks for tuning in today. Keep cruising on your journey to wealth and wellness. Bye-bye.